Well, hello, friends. I hope you're having a great day today. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Take 5. Hey, I hope you have a great day today. Why don't you just go ahead and plan right now just to trust the Lord and just have a great day all day long. You know, the Bible said the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. So just trust the Lord today that He's got every step set up just for you, and go out of here with faith. Just have an attitude change right now. Don't go out with the mully grubs, but go out in faith knowing that God has ordered your steps. Well, you know, we're dealing with the subject that we've entitled That Sinking Feeling. And since we're talking about, God ordering our steps, Peter finds himself in a situation where he has some steps that have been ordained that are a little bit tricky. Some steps that allow some fear to come into his life, fear that overwhelms his faith, at least for a little bit there. And Peter finds himself walking on the sea, doing what he asked the Lord to allow him to do. But when he sees the waves, he gets afraid and he gets concerned, and he begins to sink in that water as his faith begins to wane. But he does the right thing. He cries out to the Lord, and Jesus picks him up, and He will do that every single time. As a matter of fact, our text says in Matthew 14:31 that immediately Jesus stretched out His hand and caught him. Immediately He moved. Now, you could be just that close to Jesus picking you up. You could be that close immediately to Him picking you up if you would just cry out and don't allow yourself to sink beneath the waves. Now, this is what happened, though. The Bible said He immediately reached out and picked him up, and then He looked at him straight in the face and said, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" Now, imagine that. Jesus reaches out to pick up that child of his that's crying, and He stands him up right there beside him and looks him in the face and scolds him. Now, most of us wouldn't like that because people don't like discipline. People don't like chastisement. But you need to understand, if Jesus is going to pick you up so that you can walk again, He is going to chastise you. He's going to scold you. He's going to discipline you. He's going to do that. There's no way to avoid that. It's just going to happen. Now, you can go ahead and prepare. You're going to be caught by the Lord, but you're also going to be chastened by the Lord at the same time. That's the solution. That's what's necessary for your life and for mine. It's how we learn the lessons that God intends for us to learn. Now, He intends for you to walk again, and that's why He chastens you, because He wants you to overcome whatever that was that caused you to fall, whether it was fear or temptation or whatever the case may be. He wants you to overcome that, and so that's why He does it. He doesn't chasten you to be some rude, overbearing taskmaster. He does it because He loves you. That's what the Bible tells us, that the Lord disciplines those that He loves, and He does this because He wants you to succeed. I can't express to you enough how important it is for you to understand that God wants you to succeed. He wants you to walk on the storms of life. He wants you to walk in those steps that He's ordained for you. He wants you to walk in them and succeed. And when we fail, He'll pick us up, but He's going to correct us so that we can walk like we should. Now, failure is one of those things that everybody wants to avoid, but it's not going to happen in this life. Frighteningly enough, failure is inevitable. Regardless of who you are, sooner or later, you're going to fail. And here's the thing that gets so many people. You're not just going to fail in front of Jesus. You're going to fail in front of people sometime, because it wasn't just Jesus that saw him sink. It was them boys in the boat that saw him sink as well. And that can be the hard part, is getting over that. Sometimes it can be harder realizing that people saw you fail than it is when you realize that God saw you fail. You know what God's going to do. If you've served Him any length of time, you know that God's going to pick you up, and you know He's going to scold you, but you know that He has your best interest at heart so that you can walk again. But sometimes people can just be hurtful. Sometimes people can just be rude, and sometimes they're not. We just think they are. Sometimes our biggest enemy is right in between our ears, our brain. Sometimes that's our biggest enemy. But people's opinion, it can be hazardous to your spiritual health and your future destiny if you allow it to be. And so this is when you've got to decide that getting back on your feet and getting back on the right track and walking again is more important than what people think about your future. It's more important than what people think about your failure. It's more important than what you think about it. Getting back on your feet and walking again has got to become the most important thing in your life outside of your relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, Peter failed. It's without a doubt Peter failed. And you've done it and I've done it too. Peter failed. But let's not forget this. He was the only one that was willing to get out of the boat. The rest of them boys could have come as well, but Peter was the only one that was willing to get out of the boat. You need to remember this, friend. You can never do anything great for God if you're not willing to risk a failure. It has to happen. Failure's not the end. You can walk again. So Peter cried out. Jesus picked him up, and the Bible said, then they came into the boat and the wind ceased. So when Jesus picked Peter up, he walked again. Too many believers, I believe, focus on Peter's sinking rather than remembering that this excursion with Peter started with him walking on the water and it ended with him walking on the water. Peter walked again. So you got to decide right now that getting up and walking again is more important than what people think about your failure. It's more important than what you think about your failure. It's more important than anything because you know that God has your best interest at heart. He called you out on the water because He wants you to walk on the water. And if you happen to fail, He'll pick you up. He'll scold you, but He intends for you to walk again. Well, hey, I've got to get out of here. It's been good being with you today. I look forward to being with you tomorrow on Friday's edition of Take 5. Until then, remember this, trust the Lord. He will never fail you.